Stop. Before you scroll past this. Before your mind decides whether this is for you or not. I need you to hear something. There is a reason you stopped on this video. Not an algorithm reason. Not a coincidence reason. A God reason. Because what I am about to speak over the next 30 minutes was not assembled for a general audience. It was assembled for the specific person who cannot sleep through the night anymore. The specific person who has done everything right and still feels stuck. The specific person who has prayed the same prayer so many times that they have stopped expecting an answer. Silence. And is watching this right now, quietly wondering if God forgot their address. Swell. He did not. He never did. And what I am about to show you in the next 30 minutes will explain everything your last 2 years could not. Stay with me. I want to be very specific about who this word is for, because not every message is for every person, and I refuse to waste your time. This message is for the person who has been carrying something alone. Not because no one offered to help, but because something in you knew, deeply, quietly, undeniably knew, that this particular weight was yours to carry. That this particular road was yours to walk. And that the destination on the other side of it was something most people around you were not built to understand. This message is for the person who has walked through a loss, or a series of losses, that rewired how you see the world. Maybe it was a relationship. Maybe it was a career you built from scratch that collapsed in a season you did not see coming. Maybe it was a version of your future that you had already moved into in your imagination. You could see it, feel it, describe it. And then watched it disappear. Pause. And the hardest part was not the loss itself. The hardest part was the silence on the other side of it. The silence that made you wonder, was any of it real? Did I hear God wrong? Was I deceived by my own hope? Music swell. If that is you, if any of that landed somewhere in your chest right now, I need you to know something before we go any further. That silence was not God's absence. That silence was God building. And what He has been building in the dark, in the quiet, in the season that looked empty from the outside, is about to break into the open. Not someday. Now. If you want to understand what God is doing in your life right now, you have to understand how God operates through time. Most of us were taught to read time horizontally. Left to right. Yesterday, today, tomorrow. Monday bleeds into Tuesday, bleeds into Wednesday. We measure our lives in what we accomplished before the day ran out. But that is only one layer of time. In ancient Greek, there were 2 words for time. The first was chronos. Chronos is the clock on your wall. It is your calendar, your deadline, your mortgage payment, your birthday. Chronos moves whether anything is happening or not. It does not wait. It does not build. It simply passes. And most of us are living entirely in chronos, which means we are judging God's faithfulness by a clock He is not even using. Pause. The second word was kairos. Kairos does not mean time. Kairos means the appointed moment. It is the word the early church used when they said the kingdom of God is near. Not. It will be here eventually. Not, someday, when conditions improve. Now. The moment has arrived. Kairos is when heaven reaches through the ceiling of ordinary time and rearranges in a single season what decades of human effort could not move. Swell. And here is what I need you to understand about Kairos windows. They do not announce themselves loudly. They do not come with a ticker tape parade. They do not wait for you to be ready. They do not hold off until your circumstances are comfortable or your finances are stable or your relationships are sorted. Kairos arrives when God says now. And when it arrives, here is the part that will change how you read your own story. The preparation you went through to get here suddenly makes sense. Every hard season. Every closed door. Every delayed answer. Every moment you thought God was silent. All of it was Chronos' work making room for a Kairos arrival. Music, building. Let me show you the pattern. The pattern of Joseph. Joseph received a dream at 17. A vision so clear, so specific, that he could describe it in detail. God showed him who he would become and what he was called to carry. And then, his brothers sold him into slavery. Chronos looked at that and said, "The dream is dead." But Kairos said, "The preparation has begun." In Egypt, Joseph was falsely accused, imprisoned, forgotten. 2 full years after someone promised to help him, he was still in a cell. By every human measurement, the dream was not just delayed. It was buried. Pause. And then, one conversation. One moment where the right person stood in the right room and said the right name. And in a single day, a single Chronos day, Joseph went from a prison cell to the palace. Not because his circumstances finally improved. Because his Kairos arrived. Swell. Now I want you to sit with this question. What if what you have been calling delay is actually preparation? What if the very thing that has frustrated you most, the waiting, the silence, the years that felt wasted, was God doing in your character, your capacity, your depth of faith, what needed to be done before your Kairos could arrive? Because here is the truth about Joseph's palace moment. If he had gotten there at 17, the way he wanted, on his timeline, he would not have survived it. The version of Joseph who went into slavery was not ready for what was waiting on the other side. Before a Kairos window opens in your life, God sends signals. Not to confuse you. Not to test whether you are spiritually sophisticated enough to notice them. But because He is a father. And a good father does not surprise his child with something major without preparing them first. These signals have been showing up in your life. And I want to name them for you, because most chosen people mistake these signals for problems. They are not problems. They are preparation. Sign 1. Unexplained restlessness. Music, subtle shift. You cannot settle. Not because your life is objectively chaotic, though it may be, but because something underneath the surface is stirring in a way you cannot explain. You wake up at 3 a.m. with thoughts that do not resolve. You sit in the middle of your regular routine and feel the distance between where you are and where you know you are supposed to be like a physical ache. You have tried to distract yourself. It does not work. You have tried to logic yourself into contentment. It does not stick. Something in you is pressing forward. Pause. That is not anxiety. That is prophetic sensitivity. Your spirit is picking up a frequency your mind has not yet translated. Something is shifting in the atmosphere around your life. And the part of you that was built to perceive spiritual reality before physical reality confirms it, that part of you is awake and responding. Do not medicate the restlessness. Do not explain it away. Pay attention to it. It is pointing toward something. A plan you made with confidence fell apart without warning. A relationship you built with care ended in a way that made no sense. A door you were certain God opened, slammed shut. And in the silence after the collapse, you felt two things simultaneously. Grief. And a quiet, almost embarrassing, impossible to justify sense that something better was coming. Pause. That second feeling was not denial. That was discernment. God does not always announce a detour. Sometimes He simply closes the road. Not to punish you. Not because you missed something. But because the destination you were heading toward on that road was not the destination He had prepared for you. And the place He is taking you, the actual place, the appointed place, cannot be reached on the road you were on. The collapse was not the end of your story. The collapse was a reroute. Sign 3, Old Wounds Surfacing. Music. Tender. In recent weeks or months, things you thought you had dealt with have come back up. Old grief. Old anger toward someone who hurt you years ago. Old shame from a chapter of your life you have tried to close. And instead of feeling like healing, it has felt like regression. Why is this coming back up? I thought I was past this. Pause. Here is what God is doing. When a builder is preparing a foundation for something permanent, something built to last, they do not just pour new concrete over old cracks. They go down. They excavate. They expose what was hidden. They repair what was fractured at the root. And the process looks like destruction before it looks like construction. God is not tearing you down. He is going deeper than He has ever gone before, because what He is building in your life now requires a foundation that can hold what is coming. The things that are surfacing, release them. This is not the time to push them back down. This is the time to hand them to the God who is strong enough to carry them and wise enough to use what hurt you to strengthen what He is building. Sign 4, Supernatural Peace in the Middle of Impossible Circumstances. Music, quiet, almost sacred. Your situation, objectively, is hard. If you listed the circumstances of your life on paper, the financial pressure, the relational strain, the unanswered questions, the things that could go wrong, a reasonable person reading that list would say, this person should be falling apart. And yet, underneath the surface level stress, underneath the logical worry, there is something quiet. Something still. Something that keeps whispering, even when you do not ask it to. This is not the end. You are going to be okay. Something good is coming. Swell. That is not wishful thinking. That is the peace of God, the peace that Scripture says passes understanding, standing guard over your heart. It is the peace of a person who does not yet know the outcome but somehow knows the one who holds it. And the reason that peace keeps showing up even when your circumstances do not justify it is because God is already on the other side of this season, looking back at you, saying, keep going. You are almost here. Sign 5, A hunger you cannot feed with normal things. music, building. You have found yourself returning to prayer. Maybe not in that scheduled, disciplined way you think prayer is supposed to look. Maybe just sitting in your car in the parking lot before you go inside. Waking up and whispering something before your feet hit the floor. Finding yourself in a church, or in a quiet room, or in the middle of nature, feeling a pull towards something larger than you. The things that used to satisfy are not satisfying. Entertainment feels hollow. Distraction feels thin. Busyness feels like running on a treadmill. And in the gaps, in the quiet moments you cannot avoid, there is a hunger. A hunger for more. Not more things. Not more success. Not more comfort. More depth. More purpose. More connection to the reason you were born. Pause. That hunger is not nostalgia. That is the Spirit drawing you back into position. Because you cannot receive what is coming from the posture you were in last year. The version of you that is being prepared for what God has next. That version is not built in the noise. That version is built in exactly this kind of hunger. Sign 6. Unusual doors opening in unexpected places. Music, slightly brighter. Alongside the closings, and there have been closings, there have also been small, unexpected openings. A conversation that came out of nowhere. An opportunity that did not come through any channel you cultivated. A relationship that began in a way that, when you tell the story later, you will have no natural explanation for. Pay attention to these. They are not coincidences. They are not accidents. They are not lucky breaks. They are God threading the needle of your story in a direction your striving could never manufacture. The small openings are the beginning of the large breakthrough. Sign 7, you are watching this right now. Music, swell. Out of everything competing for your attention today. The notifications, the demands, the noise, the 100 things pulling at you. Something brought you here. Something held you here. And something in your chest is responding to these words not with polite interest, but with recognition. Yes. This is my story. This is what I have been living. That recognition is not a feeling. That is the Spirit of God saying, this is the moment I have been preparing you for. If you recognized 4 or more of those signs, type "I am ready" in the comments. Because what comes next is the word that will explain everything your last season could not. I need to speak to your identity now. Because one of the primary weapons the enemy uses against people in a Kairos window, in the moment right before the breakthrough, is the weapon of misidentity. He does not need to stop your breakthrough. He just needs to convince you that you are not the kind of person breakthroughs happen to. So let me be very clear about who you are. Dimension 1, you were chosen before you were born. Music, sacred. The scripture does not say God made a decision about you after evaluating your performance. It says, before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you drew your first breath. Before you made your first mistake. Before you had the capacity to succeed or fail. God knew you. Not as a concept. Not as a future possibility. As a person. As a specific individual with a specific name and a specific assignment. Your identity was not built from your history. Your history was built around your identity. Everything that has happened to you, the good and the devastating, happened to someone God already knew. And He did not pull away when the hard parts came. He leaned in. I want to talk about the years that hurt. The years you prayed and the answer did not come. The years you tried and the door did not open. The years you gave your best and someone else was chosen instead of you. Here is the lie the enemy told you about those years. This is proof that you are not special. This is proof that God's promises are for other people. This is proof that you missed it. And here is the truth. Every person God has used significantly in human history went through a preparation season that looked, from the outside, like abandonment. Moses, 40 years in the wilderness before he stood before Pharaoh. David, anointed king as a teenager, then spent years hiding in caves before he sat on a throne. Paul, 3 years in the desert after his encounter on the road to Damascus before he ever preached his first sermon. Pause. The wilderness was not punishment. The wilderness was curriculum. And the longer the wilderness, the larger the assignment on the other side of it. Swell. Your struggle was not evidence that you were rejected. Your struggle was evidence that you were being prepared. Dimension 3, you were built for weight other people were not built for. Music, powerful. There is a reason the ordinary life never fit. Not because you are arrogant. Not because you are unrealistic. Not because you are unwilling to be humble. But because the assignment on your life was not designed for ordinary capacity. The weight you have felt your whole life, the sense of responsibility that exceeds logical explanation, the ache to do something that matters, to leave something behind that outlasts you. That is not ego. That is calling. And calling is not assigned after you prove yourself worthy. Calling is placed in you before you have the vocabulary to describe it, before you have the courage to claim it, before life has the opportunity to wound you into doubting it. The wounding happened. But the calling was never removed. It is still in there. It is what woke you up this morning. It is what made you stop on this video. It is what is making your chest respond right now. Pause. And the season you are entering, the Kairos window that is open over your life right now, is the season where the calling stops being a private interior conviction and starts becoming a visible, public, undeniable reality. Section 5, the 30-day alignment protocol, 2100 hours, 26:30. Music, purposeful, actionable. God does not open a Kairos window and leave you without instruction. He always gives the promise and the posture, the breakthrough and the pathway to it. So I am going to give you the 30-day alignment protocol, what to do over the next 30 days so that you are positioned to receive what heaven has already declared over your life. Your first assignment is the most important and the one most people skip. Release. Release the narrative that your delay was punishment. Release the story you have been telling yourself about why it has not happened yet. Release the identity that was assigned to you by someone who did not have the authority to name you. Release the bitterness you have been carrying toward the person who did not choose you when they should have. Practically. Each morning this week, before you pick up your phone, spend 10 minutes writing. Write what you are releasing. Not as a performance. Not as a spiritual exercise that is supposed to feel a certain way. Write it the way you would talk to a father who already knows what you are going to say, and is leaning in to hear you say it anyway. I release the year I lost to grief. I release the anger toward the person who walked away. I release the fear that I am too far behind to catch up. What you release in week 1 creates the room for what arrives in week 4. Week 2, the week of listening. Days 8 through 14. Music, quiet, contemplative. Most of us spend enormous amounts of energy asking God for things. Week 2 is not about asking. Week 2 is about listening. This week, reverse the ratio of your prayer life. Instead of spending 90% of your prayer time talking and 10% waiting, spend the first 15 minutes of each day in silence. Not silence waiting for a dramatic voice from heaven. Silence that is simply an act of trust. An act that says, I believe you are present. I believe you are speaking. I am going to be still long enough to hear you. Write down what comes up in those 15 minutes. Not what you think is supposed to come up. What actually comes up. Sometimes it will be an impression. Sometimes it will be a scripture. Sometimes it will be a memory you did not expect. All of it is data. All of it is God. Week 3, the week of action. Days 15 through 21. Music, building energy. In week 3, God is going to give you a step. Not the whole staircase. One step. And that step is going to feel too small to matter, or too large to be reasonable, or both. Your assignment is to take it anyway. This is where most Kairos windows are missed, not because God does not provide the open door, but because the door He opens does not look the way we expected. We are waiting for the dramatic, unmistakable, burning bush moment. And He is whispering through an email, a conversation, an open slot on someone's calendar, an idea you have had 3 times and keep dismissing. Pause. The move of God in your life this season will have the fingerprints of human ordinariness all over it. It will look like a normal thing. It will be a supernatural thing. Take the step. Make the call. Send the email. Have the conversation. Start the thing. One step in week 3 is worth 10 years of waiting for perfect conditions. Week 4, the week of declaration. Days 22 through 30. Music, powerful, rising. In week 4, your assignment is to speak. Before the breakthrough is fully visible, speak it. Before the provision has fully arrived, thank God for what is on the way. Before the door is open to the human eye, act as though it was always yours. This is not positive thinking. This is prophetic agreement. You are aligning your words with what heaven has already declared, and in doing so, you are cooperating with its arrival. Every morning in week 4, speak your identity out loud. Out loud. Not in your head. Not in a journal only. Out loud. Because there is something about the act of speaking that moves faith from concept into reality. I am not behind. I am in divine timing. What was meant to break me only built me. The door that is opening now was always mine. I was made for this moment, and I am ready to walk through it. Speak it even if your voice shakes. Especially if your voice shakes. Because faith that has to push past fear is the kind of faith that moves mountains. Section 6, the warning, 26:30, 28:30. Music, serious, intentional. Before I close, I have to warn you. Because the enemy has seen this window too. And his strategy is not complicated, it never is. He will try to make you feel unworthy of what is coming. He will pull up your history like a highlight reel, every failure, every compromise, every moment you did not show up as the person you wanted to be, and he will build a case. A logical case. A reasonable case. And his closing argument will be this: people like you don't get breakthroughs like this. Silence. That argument is a lie. And here is how I know it is a lie. You are still here. After everything, after the losses, after the failures, after the seasons of doubt, after the nights you were not sure you believed anymore. You are still here. Still seeking. Still leaning in. Still willing to stop on a video and listen for 30 minutes because some part of you has not given up on the possibility that God has something for you. That is not desperation. That is the most powerful form of faith in existence. Faith that has been beaten and bruised and tested. And is still standing. Swell. You do not need a perfect record to receive what God releases. You need a willing heart. And the fact that you are here, the fact that you have stayed through this entire message, is proof that you have won. Closing, 28:30, 30:00. Music, full, emotional, building to resolution. Let me close with this. I have given you a pattern. I have given you a protocol. I have spoken to your identity. I have named the signs you have been living. But all of that is only useful if you make one decision. The decision to believe that this window is real. Not as a concept. Not as a comfortable idea. But as a lived reality that you are willing to reorganize your next 30 days around. That decision, and only that decision, is what separates the people who watch messages like this and feel inspired for an afternoon from the people who watch messages like this and step into the actual transformation God was offering. Pause. God is not looking for an audience for what He is about to do in your life. He is looking for a partner. Someone who will take His word seriously enough to actually move. Someone who will release in week 1, even when releasing is painful. Someone who will listen in week 2, even when the silence is uncomfortable. Someone who will take the step in week 3, even when the outcome is not guaranteed. Someone who will declare in week 4, even when the circumstances have not fully caught up. That partner could be you. That partner is you, if you choose it. Music, final swell. So make the choice. Commit to the next 30 days. And when you arrive on day 30 and look back at who you were when this message began, something will be different. Not everything. But something foundational. A shift in how you see yourself. A shift in what you believe is possible. A shift in the atmosphere around your life. That shift is the beginning of the season that every hard thing in your past was preparing you for. You are the person this message was sent for. Heaven has been waiting for you to receive this. Now go. Go live like someone who finally believes it. If this word landed in your spirit today, do not leave without doing 2 things. First, drop the word "open" in the comments. That one word is a declaration. It is you telling God, I am available. The door is mine. Second, share this with one person who needs it. You did not find this message for yourself alone. Someone in your circle is in the same window and does not know it yet. I will see you in the next 30 days. Keep going.